My name is Paul Henderson. I'm 38 years old, and I work as a technical sales director in Denver, Colorado. For nearly 3 years together, I believe I had a solid marriage with Catherine Miller, an ambitious corporate manager who climbed a ladder faster than most people in our circle. We met at a networking event downtown in late 2021, hit off over craft beer and shared ambitions, and moved in together within 6 months. We had a small civil ceremony in late 2022. Catherine was sharp, driven, and knew exactly what she wanted from life. I respected that about her. She earned around $95,000 annually managing supply chain operations for a mid-sized logistics company, while I pulled in about $115,000 in technical sales for industrial equipment. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable in our 2-bedroom apartment in the Highlands neighborhood, splitting the $2,100 monthly rent and building what I thought was a partnership based on mutual respect and shared goals. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. I've always been the type who values loyalty above everything else. In my line of work, trust is currency. When I tell a client that a piece of machinery will increase their productivity by 15%, my word needs to be gold. That same principle guided my personal relationships. I believe Catherine and I operated on that same foundation of honesty and commitment. But somewhere around early 2024, things started shifting. Subtle changes at first. Catherine began working later, claiming her company was expanding into new markets and required more evening strategy sessions. She'd come home after 9 p.m., sometimes 10 o'clock, smelling like expensive wine, and making excuses about client dinners that seem to happen 3 times a week. The Peterson account is demanding, she'd say, dropping her purse by the door and heading straight to the shower. You know how these Fortune 500 executives are. Everything has to be perfect. I nodded and believed her. Why wouldn't I? We'd been together long enough for me to know her work ethic. Catherine was ambitious, and ambition required sacrifices. Or so I told myself. The intimacy between us became mechanical, scheduled, like another item on her business calendar. Our conversations shifted from dreams about the future to logistics about bills and schedules. She started picking fights over insignificant things. The way I loaded the dishwasher, my choice of weekend activities, even my preference for watching football instead of her favorite true crime documentaries. You never want to do anything interesting anymore. Paul, she complained one Sunday afternoon in February 2024. When's the last time we went somewhere that wasn't your idea of fun? I suggested we take a weekend trip to Aspen. Maybe hit the slopes and stay at that boutique hotel she'd mentioned months earlier. But Catherine shot it down, claiming work commitments made it impossible. Everything made it impossible lately. The first real red flag came on a Thursday evening in early March 2024. I'd gotten home before Catherine, which was becoming increasingly rare, and decided to move her car from the street to our designated parking spot behind the building. As I adjusted the driver's seat back to my height, my hand brushed against something soft wedged beneath it. I pulled out a black lace bra. Not Catherine's size, not Catherine's style. For a moment, I just stared at it, my mind racing through possible explanations. Maybe she'd borrowed a friend's car. Maybe someone had used our vehicle for something. But deep down in that place where instinct lives, I knew exactly what I was looking at. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I folded the bra carefully and placed it in my desk drawer at home. I needed to be sure. In my business, you never make decisions based on incomplete data, and marriage deserved the same analytical approach. So I waited and watched. Catherine's patterns became clearer once I started paying attention. Her late meetings always fell on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She'd shower immediately upon coming home, even on days when she claimed to have been stuck in conference rooms all evening. Her phone, which used to sit casually on counters and tables, now lived permanently in her purse or pocket. The confirmation came 3 weeks later, on a rainy Tuesday, in late March 2024. I'd finished a client presentation downtown earlier than expected and decided to grab dinner at a pub on 17th Street before heading home. As I waited for my order of fish and chips, I spotted Catherine through the window, sitting in a corner booth with David Rodriguez, a senior operations manager from her company. I knew David from the occasional office party Catherine dragged me to. Married guy with 2 kids. Drove a silver BMW. Always wore expensive suits that screamed trying too hard. What struck me wasn't that they were having dinner together. Corporate colleagues do that all the time. It was the way Catherine leaned across the table, her hand covering his, her body language screaming intimacy rather than business. I paid for my untouched meal and followed them outside, staying a block behind. As they walked to the Marriott downtown, I watched them enter the hotel lobby together. Catherine's arm looped through David's like they were heading to their honeymoon suite rather than a strategic planning session. That night, when Catherine came home at 10:30, I was reading a technical manual for new hydraulic systems, acting completely normal. "How was your day, honey?" she asked, kissing my forehead like she had for almost 3 years. "Productive," I replied without looking up. Landed the Morrison account. $60,000 in equipment sales. "That's wonderful," she said, already heading toward the bathroom. "I'm exhausted. These Peterson meetings are killing me." I listened to the shower run for 20 minutes and made my decision. No screaming, no accusations, no dramatic confrontations that would give her ammunition to paint me as the unstable one. Catherine wanted to play games, fine, but she discovered that I understood strategy better than she realized. The next morning, I called my buddy Ryan Matthews, a guy I'd known since college, who now ran a small organic farm in the hills outside Boulder. Ryan had always been the kind of friend who asked few questions and offered practical solutions. I need a place to stay for a while. I told him over coffee at a diner near my office. Temporary situation, but I need complete privacy. The old Airstream trailer behind my barn, Ryan said without hesitation. Previous tenant moved out last month. It's got electricity, running water, internet connection. $800 a month, utilities included. Perfect. Isolated enough that Catherine couldn't accidentally stumble across my new address, but close enough to Denver that I could maintain my work schedule without raising suspicions. I started moving my belongings in small batches. A suitcase of clothes here, some personal documents there. Nothing Catherine would immediately notice missing from our apartment. I opened a new checking account at a different bank, had my paychecks redirected there, and slowly transferred my portion of our shared savings. Money I contributed from day one of our relationship. Catherine's schedule made it easy. While she was at her Tuesday and Thursday meetings with David, I systematically removed traces of my life from the apartment. My favorite books, my collection of vintage concert posters, my grandfather's tools, my computer equipment. 3 weeks of careful extraction, and Catherine remained oblivious. The beautiful irony was that her affair actually made my exit smoother. She was so distracted by her secret romance that she stopped paying attention to anything happening at home. When she bothered to engage with me at all, it was usually to pick another meaningless fight. "Paul, you left dishes in the sink again," she complained one evening in mid-April 2024. "Sorry about that," I said, loading them into the dishwasher. "I'll be more careful." What she didn't realize was that those were the last dishes I'd ever leave in that sink. My opportunity came when Catherine announced a business trip to Phoenix, supposedly to finalize some major contract negotiations. 4 days away, departing on a Thursday morning, returning Sunday night. I knew exactly what kind of business she'd be conducting in Arizona. Safe travels, I told her, helping carry her suitcase to the Uber waiting outside our building. Hope the Peterson deal works out. She kissed me goodbye, and for a split second I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or relief at getting away from the husband she was systematically betraying. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. Thursday afternoon, I took a half day from work and returned to our apartment for the final time as Catherine's husband. The place felt different already, lighter somehow, like a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had been lifted from my shoulders. I gathered my remaining personal items, a few family photos, my coffee mug collection, the expensive bottle of bourbon Catherine had given me for my 37th birthday the previous year. Ironic that I'd be taking that with me. Then I sat down at our kitchen table and wrote a single sentence on a piece of notebook paper. I hope it was worth it. I placed a note next to my wedding ring on Catherine's nightstand, where she'd be sure to find it when she returned from her romantic getaway with David. No explanation needed. She was smart enough to figure out what I discovered. And honestly, I didn't owe her anything more than those 6 words. The drive to Ryan's farm took 45 minutes through winding mountain roads that felt like a passage from one life to another. The Airstream trailer was exactly what I needed. Small, functional, and completely mine. For the first time in months, I could breathe without wondering what Catherine was really doing or who she was really with. I spent the weekend setting up my new space and planning my next moves. Monday morning, I called Catherine's office and asked to speak with her supervisor. "This is Paul Henderson, Catherine Miller's husband." I told the woman who answered, "I need to inform you that Catherine won't be reachable at her current contact information after this week. Could you please update your emergency contact records?" "Is everything all right, Mr. Henderson?" the supervisor asked, concern evident in her voice. "Catherine will need to provide you with new contact details herself." I replied politely, "Thank you for your time." I activated a new number on a second line that same day, moved my work contacts and close friend there, and left my original line active on the old phone. So Catherine's calls would hit that device while I stayed unreachable. Catherine's return from Phoenix was supposed to happen Sunday evening. I imagine her walking into our empty apartment, calling my name, slowly realizing that half our belongings had vanished along with her husband. The note and ring would make everything crystal clear. Ryan checked on me Tuesday morning, bringing fresh eggs from his chickens and a thermos of coffee. "You doing all right out here?" he asked, settling into one of the trailer's small chairs. "Haven't heard a peep from you since Sunday." "Better than I've been in months," I told him. Honestly, sometimes the best thing you can do is simply remove yourself from a toxic situation. "She figure out you're gone yet?" "Oh, she knows." I showed Ryan my old phone, which I kept powered on to monitor Catherine's increasingly desperate attempts to reach me. 47 missed calls since Sunday night, 23 voicemails that I hadn't bothered listening to, dozens of text messages that started angry and evolved into pleading. The pattern was predictable. First came confusion. "Paul, where are you? Call me back immediately." Then anger. "This is ridiculous. Whatever you think happened, we need to talk like adults." Eventually, desperation. "Please, Paul, I can explain everything. Just give me a chance." But I'd already given her plenty of chances. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening for months, in fact. Wednesday brought a voicemail that lasted nearly 3 minutes. Against my better judgment, I played it. "Paul, I know you found out about David." Catherine's voice trembled through the speaker. "I know how this looks, but it's not what you think. It was a mistake. A horrible mistake that meant nothing. David and I, we didn't. Okay, we did, but it was just physical. It wasn't love. It wasn't real like what we have." I deleted the message halfway through. Catherine's definition of not real apparently included hotel rooms and business trips to Arizona. By Friday, she'd apparently exhausted her phone harassment strategy and moved to showing up at my workplace. My assistant buzzed my office around noon. "Mr. Henderson, there's a woman here claiming to be your wife. She's quite insistent about seeing you. Please inform Mrs. Miller that I'm in meetings all afternoon and she should schedule an appointment through proper channels if she needs to discuss business matters." Mrs. Miller seemed to think this was personal. "Sir, it's not," I said firmly. "Please escort her from the building if she continues to cause a disturbance." That evening, Ryan mentioned that a woman in a black sedan had been driving slowly past his property several times during the day. Catherine had apparently figured out my general location, though she hadn't found the trailer yet. The farm sprawled across 200 acres with multiple access roads, so I wasn't particularly concerned about unwanted visitors. Still, her persistence surprised me. In our time together, Catherine had never fought this hard for anything involving our relationship. Career advancement, yes. Professional recognition, absolutely. But our partnership had always taken a back seat to her ambitions. Now, faced with the consequences of her choices, she suddenly wanted to prioritize us. Too late for that conversation. 2 months passed before Catherine found me. I'd settled into a routine that felt more natural than anything I'd experienced in years. Wake up at sunrise, coffee on the trailer's small deck overlooking Ryan's pastures, drive to Denver for work, return to the mountains by evening. Simple, peaceful, honest. My sales numbers improved dramatically once I stopped worrying about Catherine's moods and schedules. The Morrison account led to 3 additional contracts worth over $170,000 in equipment sales. My boss mentioned a possible promotion to regional sales manager with a salary bump that would put me close to $150,000 annually. Life was good. Better than good, actually. Then Catherine appeared at a coffee shop on Pearl Street in Boulder, where I'd started grabbing breakfast on Saturday mornings in late June 2024. I was reading the Wall Street Journal and enjoying a particularly excellent breakfast burrito when she slid into the seat across from me. She looked terrible. Catherine had always been meticulous about her appearance. Perfectly styled hair, coordinated outfits, makeup applied with professional precision. The woman sitting across from me wore wrinkled clothes, minimal makeup, and had dark circles under her eyes that suggested she wasn't sleeping well. "Hello, Paul," she said quietly. I folded my newspaper and studied her face for a moment. "Catherine, you're a hard man to find." "I'm not hiding," I replied. "I'm just not interested in being found by certain people." She flinched slightly at that, then pressed forward. "We need to talk." "About what? About us? About our marriage? About the mistake I made?" I took a sip of my coffee, noting that Catherine's hands were shaking slightly. "There is no us anymore, Catherine. You made that decision when you chose David Rodriguez over our marriage." "It wasn't a choice," she said desperately. "It was a stupid, meaningless mistake that got out of hand. David and I were not together anymore. Haven't been for weeks." "Congratulations, Paul." "Please, I lost my job. The company found out about David and me, and since he's married with 2 kids, they decided I was a liability. I've been looking for work for a month with no luck. I can't afford the apartment anymore. I'm staying with my sister in Aurora, sleeping on her couch." I processed this information without emotion. Catherine's affair had cost her the career she prioritized over our marriage, the financial independence she'd valued above our partnership, and apparently the relationship she thought was worth destroying everything for. "I'm sorry to hear about your employment situation," I said genuinely. "That's unfortunate. Is that all you have to say?" Her voice cracked slightly. "Paul, I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. I've always loved you. Can't we try to work through this?" I set down my coffee cup and looked directly into her eyes. "Catherine, for almost 3 years, I gave you everything I had. My trust, my loyalty, my commitment to building a future together, and you threw it away for hotel room encounters with a married colleague. You didn't love me then, and you don't love me now. You love the security and stability I represented. But that's not the same thing. That's not true." She protested, tears starting to flow. "I know I hurt you, but you didn't hurt me." I interrupted calmly. "You freed me. You showed me exactly who you are when you think nobody's watching. And honestly, Catherine, I'm grateful." She stared at me in shock. "Grateful? Absolutely, because now I get to build a life with someone who actually deserves my trust and commitment. Someone who won't throw away years of partnership for a few exciting evenings with a colleague." "There isn't anyone else," she said quietly. "Is there?" "Not yet," I admitted, "but there will be. Because I know my worth now, and I know I deserve better than someone who sees marriage as a backup plan for when her other options fall through." Catherine sat in silence for several minutes, tears streaming down her face. Finally, she spoke in barely a whisper. "Is there anything I can say to change your mind?" "No." She nodded slowly, accepting what I'd known for months, that our marriage had ended the moment she chose to betray everything we'd built together. She stood to leave, then turned back one final time. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Paul." "I already have," I replied. Self-respect. I watched her walk away, feeling nothing but relief that this chapter of my life was finally definitively closed. Catherine had gambled our marriage on a workplace affair and lost everything. Her husband, her job, her financial security, and ultimately her dignity. I hadn't needed to destroy her life. She'd done that perfectly well herself. 14 months later, in August 2025, I accepted the promotion to regional sales manager with a starting salary of $152,000. I bought a small house in the foothills west of Boulder with mountain views and enough space for the life I was building. Ryan became one of my closest friends, and through him, I met Sarah, a veterinarian who shared my values about loyalty and commitment. Catherine's betrayal had taught me something valuable. Sometimes the greatest revenge is simply refusing to let someone's bad choices define your future. I didn't need to hurt her or embarrass her or make her life difficult. I just needed to walk away and build something better. And that's exactly what I did. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.